Before we start today's episode, a bit of housekeeping for all those listeners out there. Whichever your podcast listening platform of choice, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, reviews can make a huge impact. Not only do we value your feedback, which can help us create better content, it will also help others discover the podcast. So spread the love and leave a review if you've got a minute. And with that, on with today's show. I'm the Reverend Dr. Jenny McKay, veterinarian and minister in secular employment, environmentalist, activist, and a self-confessed cat junkie. But believe it or not, I have never sung Wonderwall on a Birmingham high street with a borrowed guitar, going viral in the process. Someone who has is my guest today, Online Personal Trainer of the Year 2023, former soldier, former policeman, author, and founder of the charity Socks and Chocs, Ian Northcott BEM. Ian, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I must say, you have quite the singing voice, haven't you? Can you tell me a bit about that moment on Birmingham News Street back in 2013 and the reaction to it? I know people were watching you on the spot and also online.
Yeah, it was quite funny, actually. So I was a serving police officer at the time, and I've always made it my business to go and speak to the people that, you see on the streets when you're walking around, whether they be homeless or whether they be buskers, whatever. And that particular day, I was walking along, and one of the buskers knew I played guitar because I'd played his guitar a couple of times with him in the back alleys kind of thing. And he said, Ian, come and do a song. And he sort of launched his guitar at me, and I'm there in full uniform. I thought, okay, so I knocked out a couple of chords, and Wonderwall was one of the songs that we did. And we got, I think it was about 350 people were sort of all around me at the time. I think he earned pretty good that day,
Yeah,
in his hat.
Brilliant.
So I did that, and it just went from there. It went viral, really. So, people put it out on social media. There's people filming it all over the place. And of course, at that point, I didn't really know what the bosses would think of it. I don't think police officers did things like that particularly. So I didn't really know whether I was going to get in trouble or not. But actually, the feedback was so positive that, that somebody's out there being real, being interested in the public and all that kind of stuff. People coming up to me and saying, you've done more for public police relations in the last 10 minutes than the police have done for years. So the bosses couldn't really get on my back too much about it. So they went the other way and they supported it completely. But what's funny is that, I did 23 years in the police, and I was just coming to the end of my career at that point. I'd got 2 years to do. And over the time, I've done some pretty, dare I say, good things, saving the odd life and, disarming people that carrying knives or weapons or whatever. So quite a lot of that went on. But the thing I'm remembered for is singing Wonderwall down the street.
And it's still on YouTube. It is still there, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah. And all the important stuff, that I should have been doing has been, forgotten about. And that's become my legacy to the police.
Well, like you said, it was a really, really good community event, wasn't it? Yeah, showing how the police are really looking out for people. It helped build those bridges.
It was funny because I'd actually done it before with the same busker at the Christmas market in Birmingham, probably about 6 months before. And I turned that into a bit of a sort of crime prevention thing. So I was doing it, and then of course I got loads of people watching me, and then I came out with a bit of be careful of your bags and all this kind of stuff. I thought that'll stop me getting in trouble, you see. And that was the end. I never thought any more of it. So when he threw his guitar at me the second time, I assumed he'd be the same. A couple of people would film it, and that'd be it. I didn't expect to become what's technically called internet famous. I didn't expect to be on Radio 5 Live being interviewed. I didn't expect to be interviewed on local TV, local radio, international TV. I didn't expect all of that. I mean, I had a week after that when I was just basically a celebrity, really. But the important bit about that is getting that celebrity allowed me to talk about Socks and Chocs, which I know we're going to talk about in a minute. But what it allowed me to do was get that message out there. So it was used for a solely good purpose. It wasn't just me showing off. I could get it out there, and then we had more support, and that led to many, many other things, which led to more homeless people being helped. So we'll talk about that if you like a bit later on, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. So you really have literally worn several hats in your careers. As we've said, police officer, you're also a soldier, you're fitness coach, author, and founder of Socks and Chocs. So can you just tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and how you worked through that amazing journey?
Yeah, so at school, I wasn't what you might call academically gifted, particularly at school. I told this story recently, actually. There was one particular teacher, and I normally tell people his name, but out of respect, I won't mention his name here today. But he was a physics teacher, and I wasn't very good at physics, and I don't think I'd be very good at it now, although I probably would do better now because my belief systems are a little bit different. And he told my mum and dad when they went to a teacher's evening, he told them that Ian's thick. And what I think he meant was Ian can't understand physics very well, which would have been actually quite accurate and something that I wouldn't have balked at. But being called thick and your parents kind of thinking you're letting them down a bit or letting yourself down kind of thing was quite a big pill to swallow. And he actually said something like, Ian's thick, he might as well just go and join the army or something like that. Now, I don't think that was the reason I chose to join the army, because that was in high school as opposed to in the final 2 years of schooling in a different school. So I think I'd moved on a bit from there. But that's what he said anyway. So when it came to me deciding what I was going to do for my career, I thought about joining the police, and they weren't taking on cadets at the time. So I thought, what else could I do? So I thought about the army. And so that's what I did. I joined the army as a boy soldier. So I joined at 16. And you are a soldier. You do learn how to be a soldier, but it's a bit like a boarding school, really. You know, you're in uniform and everything, but you're still doing study. You're still doing some O levels and that kind of thing. And the army's really good. And I don't know what it's like now. I mean, this was 1981, but the army was always good at finding something that you were really good at. So if somebody came along and they might have been something like a street fighter, you know, sort of a bit of a bad lad, if you like, you know, they'd come along and the army would go, hey, listen, you're a good boxer. And they'd build that person up to be in the boxing team. And then their little sort of comfort zone of, I'm not very good at anything, I just keep getting in trouble with the police or whatever is going on in their head. They felt, well, I'm good at boxing. I wonder what else I could be good at. So then suddenly their map reading would get a bit better. And then after their map reading got a bit better, they were able to do something else. And then that comfort zone got bigger and bigger and bigger. And that happened with more than just me, but it definitely did happen with me. And suddenly they were noticing some leadership potential, and I got promoted in the junior army, not the real army, the junior army first, but we still had ranks and things. And you get promoted. Well, of course, when an officer or somebody's telling you that you're a natural leader of people, you kind of think, oh, you know, your tail goes up a bit and you think, oh, fantastic, yeah. You know, and then I became, they were called apprentice NCOs, and I became an apprentice sergeant. I was leading people on parades. I was shouting the orders out, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I was taking people on exercise, practicing for battle. And I was the leader, if you like. And that made me feel good. And then I'm starting to have some real good belief in myself now, right? So despite people think the army's all shouting and putting you down, it certainly wasn't in my case. It built me up. Yeah. Then I did. So in the army, when you join, you join for 9 years, first of all. But that 9 years doesn't start until you're 18, and it's then called colour service. So although I did 10 years in the army, only 9 years of that counts as colour service, so pensionable service, for want of a better way of putting it. So I did 9 years essentially, and I was a sergeant when I left. And I was living in Germany at the time, and I was coming up to retirement from the army at 9 years, but I had the choice of extending to 12. I was 27, and I thought, do you know what? I think it's going to be more difficult to come out and get another career at the 12-year point when I'm 30 than it would be doing it at 27. So West Midlands Police at the time were recruiting, and they came out to Dortmund. So I did my police recruitment test there, passed that, and then I had to then go through the process, and I anyway got accepted by the police, so I decided to leave the army. So I left the army, I was 27, and then I joined the police and did 23 years, because the army service, your pension, although I did 9 years pensionable service, it bought me about something like 6 years, 73 days, something daft like that, of the police pension. So I only had to do 23 years in the police to get a full police pension, which was quite nice to be able to do that. So I did that. And then when I came to the end of that police career, it was time for me to move on again. And you can probably understand that being in the army and stuff like that, I've always been interested in fitness and health and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, well, what am I going to do? I'm only 51. I'm not going to retire. So what am I going to do? And I thought about getting a fitness business going. And that's what I did. And over the last 10 years, that's what I've been doing. And that's changed considerably in 10 years. I've moved with the times a little bit, moved with the clients a little bit. And it's a different beast now to what it was when I started. But that's where I am right now. So that's kind of the journey, I guess.
Wow, that's great. And I think, what you said, what teachers can say to you early on at school can really affect you. I was told I couldn't be a vet. Well, that was my careers teacher. She said to me, "You can't be a vet." She thought I was too short.
Too short.
But they just come up sometimes with these spurious reasons, don't they? And
that's it.
You've got to go with what your heart wants.
Yeah, and you know what? I mean, that shows some fortitude, doesn't it? When you were going, okay, you told me that, you didn't just believe it. You thought, no, well, I'm going to use it another way now, and I'm going to make that
absolutely
that I'm going to do just that. Thank you very much. So you can use it both ways. I just think the physics thing was a bit too far for me to understand.
Dear. Well, I hope he's listening to the podcast. He might not be around anymore, of course.
He might not be. He'd be
that is
older man now.
Old history. So anyway, with your career as a personal trainer now, firstly, congratulations, you won Online Coach of the Year in 2023. So as someone whose core audience, if you like, is older adults looking to reclaim their health, their strength, their confidence, what did the award mean to you? And how much of a testament was it to the people that you help?
Okay, so I initially started off not with the idea of it being for older people with long-term conditions. The idea of it was, how can I share the way that the army trains, right, but in a way that civilians might enjoy? Okay. And I'd read about something called Nordic walking, which I think is a fantastic exercise mode, if you like, using poles to push the poles in the ground to get a full-body workout. Not that dissimilar to sort of carrying a weapon, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. And I don't mean to use the poles as a weapon, but, carrying something in your arms while you're doing it. And I'd got this vision of taking people around the countryside and using lock gates and fences and all this kind of stuff, street furniture, to do some training. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in this country, though, Nordic walking seems to only appeal to older people. And so very quickly, you end up getting a client base of people that are of a certain age and of a certain fitness level. And just back to what we were discussing a few minutes ago, their belief systems are, I am older, therefore I can't do X, Y, and Z. And I fundamentally don't agree with that. I believe people can do what they want if they're wishing to put the work in to do it. Albeit we do it carefully, we make sure they're safe, and they're not going to do it just because they decide one day they might have to put that work in. But I think people can do pretty much what they want to do if they're willing to put the work in. So I wasn't going to have that. But that's the way that my business went. And so I had a very healthy Nordic walking business with older clients, and we were doing all sorts of exciting things. And then COVID hit. And when we got hit with COVID and clients went out walking on their own, and some of those didn't come back because they realised or thought they could do it on their own, that they couldn't. They weren't getting the same thing out of it by any stretch of the imagination. But they thought they could, and it was free. So off they went, and I lost a bunch doing that. And also, I've never believed that the Nordic walking bit on its own was enough, because I've always believed that people need to be doing strength training, mobility training, lots of other things as well. So not just the mode of walking. So I used to do, and I still do, what I used to call Trek Fit. But now that I'm not involved in the Nordic walking community anymore, I call it BAS, which is balance, agility, strength, and stability. That's it. But it's an outdoor circuit, essentially. Imagine like a sort of a boot camp, if you like, a kind of boot camp, but for older people. And so that's I did that then. And then when COVID hit, I knew full well we were going to go into lockdown. I could tell. It was about 2 weeks before it was announced. And I thought, I've got to do some online stuff. So I literally set it all up and started doing stuff online. And that went really well. And people were achieving far more than just the walking alone. So the people that got involved in both bits of my business, so the walking and the online stuff, the ones that did both actually did the best out of all the clients. Their fitness started to improve significantly, right? So we did that. And then, of course, we came out of COVID, and I just thought really that once we come out of COVID and the lockdowns had finished, I'd go back to what it was before. But I'd lost too many clients. I'd gained some clients that weren't Nordic walking clients in the first place because they like doing the online stuff.
Great.
A lot of my clients got involved with the online. They have a struggle sometimes to get them to try it, but once they tried it, they realised actually it's good fun, and you're not in the same room as people, but you still have the same interaction. You're still taking the mickey, and all those sort of things that make it personable and fun. Well, that's what I think anyway. They might think differently, but and then I got the problem of I need to keep both bits of the business going, because neither of those sides of the business on their own would support a business. I needed to keep both because I'd lost so many people when COVID hit. So I had to move with the times. And I think that's the lesson there is you have to move with the times. You can't be static. Anything that you do, you've got to listen to any feedback you get, and you've got to do something about it. And so I did. I decided, right, okay, I need to now start doing other things to get qualified in different areas. So I did things like became a personal trainer. I got qualified in exercise referral, and that's when somebody's got a known medical condition and they want to work with a personal trainer or a fitness professional. That fitness professional should be qualified to be able to help them with that particular issue. I've got the level 4 obesity and diabetes. So if somebody is suffering from any of those two conditions, I can legitimately, with insurance and everything, train them. And I've just signed up now for, I'm literally in the middle of doing it now, a level 4 cardiac rehab. So I can help people, when I've got the qualification, I can help people that are recovering from a heart attack within the framework of that. It's a little bit more complicated than other conditions, but nevertheless. And lower back pain, that's the other one I'm doing. They're both level 4.
Right.
And that's putting me into the situation where I can help more people properly and well, because, people are getting older. And if I don't get new people coming through, I've got to look after those clients that I've currently got. And we've got somebody who's 80 now that's involved in herself with what we do. And she's very fit, and it's great to see. And it's achievable for everybody.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Old age, it has to be, your old age has to be good quality living as well, doesn't it?
Well,
and I know
Peter
you're passionate.
I am, yeah. You can tell I'm on a roll now. I won't shut up now. But there's a chap called Peter Attia who's one of the world's renowned longevity experts, if you want to call him that. And there's two things that he says. And one of them is that what is it that you want to do in your last decade of life? So whether that's still play with the grandkids, still ski, or still rock climb, or whatever it happens to be. And then you can sort of work backwards to see where do you need to be now, so the natural decline that you have doesn't stop you doing those things then. And I think that's quite profound. And I think if we think about things like that, what do I want to do in that last decade of my life? That's great.
Yeah.
The other thing that he says is he doesn't really talk about lifespan quite in the same way as some people do. He talks about health span. So you want to be healthy, because I for one, don't want to be 90 years of age, sat in a chair in a home, not being able to move or do things. So I'd like to be healthy and fit to be able to do things, and then really probably die. And then, yes. I want to be healthy as long as I can. But so the reason we do fitness really is not because none of me, my clients, we're not going to become Olympic athletes unless we do an age restricted version of it. We're not going to become an actual Olympic athlete. So we're actually keeping fit and healthy for our longevity reasons, for our health span reasons, so that we are healthy individuals. Really, that's the bottom line. We might dress it up in how fast can you do a row in this distance, how fast can you do that on your bike, and all that kind of stuff. But essentially what we're doing it for is so that we are healthy individuals for longer.
Yeah, and I think your approach, it sounds really kind of honest and realistic and achievable. Because, I mean, as you know, you do have some people out there who are offering like quick fixes and wellness hacks. And there is work to be put in to get fit, isn't there?
There actually is. And it's got to be consistent, number one. So there's no point in you going to the gym once a fortnight, working hard, getting sore, and thinking that's going to sort you out for the next fortnight, because it won't. You'll just get sore, nothing will happen. And then you'll go back again and you'll do it again because you feel guilty or whatever. It's got to be consistent. I think it's got to be like cleaning your teeth. So I wouldn't get up in the morning, not clean my teeth, and I wouldn't go to bed without cleaning my teeth again. So it's part of what I do. And also what I do is I do some kind of fitness every day. It's not always high intensity. It's not always, running around. It's not always rowing really hard. It's not always doing a hard circuits class. It might be mobility one day. It might be walking my dogs or something. But I do something every single day that keeps my body functioning well. And I'm trying to impart that to my clients. And most of my clients now probably get it now, most of my clients. Because the ones that don't get it, they've stopped becoming clients anymore because it was in the too difficult box. So they've decided... I'll just not want to look after my grandkids when I'm in my last decade of life because I'm not willing to put the work in now. So, and you picked on another thing there. You said an honest approach. And there's two things I probably would like to say about that. And that is that, one, I am honest. I can't see the point in dressing something up that isn't true, right? So I want my clients, if I tell them they've done well, I want them to know that I actually mean that, right? And I'm not just saying it, oh, well done, you're doing so well, and the person's barely moving. I don't want to be that person. But at the same time, I also want to be able to tell them when something is not going well so they can get better. And there's a lot of people that want to hide where they actually are. So let's say they've got a limitation in something, whether that's cardiovascular or whether it's a muscle issue, whatever it is. Some people try to hide it so that they can just carry on about their life or carry on doing circuits they want to do, carry on rowing, carry on doing whatever it is they like to do. They try and hide it. And what that does then is it brings in compensation. So they move in their body in a less than perfect way, so that then they might build in problems, right? And so I want my clients to understand where they are, and if they accept where they are, they can then find some way of making it better. If we keep hiding it, we won't. We'll just brush over it. No.
Yeah. And quite often, I know when I go out Nordic walking, I see people that they're supposedly Nordic walking, but they're their gait is very bad and their posture is very bad, you know, and I always feel it takes somebody to say to them, you know, straighten up your shoulders, do that a bit better. There's no point being sloppy about some of these activities, is there? Or you're not getting the best out of it.
No, that's really true. And the problem from a fitness professional's point of view is if you tell somebody and they don't want to hear it, they might very quickly become an ex-client because they don't want to be told. And okay, of course, there's ways of telling somebody, and everybody is different. Different approaches work with different clients. Sometimes some clients need to be told, literally told. That is not acceptable. You're not going to get anywhere with that. Some clients need to be more nurtured. Some need a bit of the two, and as professional, we can't always get it bang right every time. We try to, but sometimes a client might get upset one day when you tell them something they don't want to hear, and you think, look, I wasn't there trying to upset you. I was trying to help you understand. That does happen, not very often, but it can. And so it's all about trying to understand your clients, what their motivation is, and what sort of points will resonate with them a little bit so that they can actually grow and get better. Because what's the point in putting a fitness intervention in if we don't know what we're trying to achieve? Because what does it mean? So let's find out where we are. So where are we now? Right? Where do we want to be? And what have we got to do in the middle to make that happen? That's what my job is in a nutshell.
Yeah. And you have to say it as it is, don't you?
So I mean, being an ex-police officer, I am quite happy to tell people the way that it is. I never wish to upset anybody, but at the same time, I'm not going to tell them a lie just to keep them as a client. And that's what I'm saying is these fitness professionals that allow this to happen, allow sloppy behavior just because I better not tell them because they might not become my client anymore. Well, I'm sorry, I don't think I'd be doing my job right if I allowed that to happen. So I'm never going to do that. I'm going to tell, I'll risk losing the client.
Yeah. To do the best for them. I understand. So just moving on a little bit now to one of your other aspects. You've written plenty of books. You've written books from everything from health guides to Nordic walking tours across the World War I battlefields, and also a lovely children's series starring Bailey the Lemon Beagle. And you do have Bailey the Lemon Beagle. Bailey's absolutely your dog. So do these very different projects all connect to like a singular life lesson for you, if you like?
Well, the health and fitness stuff, obviously, it is very important to me, has been for a long, long time. I can't imagine myself not doing health and fitness in some way. So that all resonates. The children's books, really, I've had 5 dogs in my married life, so my own dogs rather than mum and dad's family dogs kind of thing. And I wanted to do some way of them being remembered. And I thought, well, Bailey's really cute. I'm sure I could do something around Bailey and Mac and Murphy and Major and, all the dogs that we've owned. And Bonnie's the one, only Miss Bonnie out there. So there's the 5 dogs that we've had. So I thought, well, let's do a little series there. And how can we try to educate children? I mean, I think all good children's books have got a little hidden message somewhere that, whether that's teamwork or, be friendly with people, be kind, whatever it is. So I tried to put some of those into books. I don't know if I've survived or if I've been successful or not. I don't know. But that's the idea. So yeah, Bailey's the star, and the other ones are his mates. Yeah.
Oh, and I have met Bailey the Lemon Beagle, just for our listeners, and Bailey is very, very cute indeed.
He's lovely. He's a lovely boy. He is.
And now, just coming on to, which I know is another great passion of yours, this is a charity you founded, Socks and Chocs, and that grew from a simple idea that many of us probably take for granted, that you can offer warm socks and a small bit of comfort, and that does such a lot for somebody who is experiencing homelessness. So could you just tell us a little bit about the beginnings of that charity?
Yeah. So Socks and Chocs. I was a young police officer. Well, I say young, I wasn't that young actually. I was young to the service. I'd been in about a year, I think. And there was a chap. There was a homeless guy. I won't use his real name, but he hated the police. The police didn't really like him very much. He was a bit of a character. But I used to give him the odd pair of socks and the odd Mars bar or something like that from time to time when I saw him, and I got on okay with him. We kind of tolerated each other. We were all right. And one day I was down on one of the old subways in Birmingham. They've been sort of pretty much built out of Birmingham now, but I was down this old subway, and this big group was coming towards me, and it didn't feel very comfortable. It was a bit, what's going to happen here? Big, massive group. And you get a feel for stuff like that. You think something's going to happen, Anyway, they came towards me. I couldn't call for backup because nothing had happened. If me in my first 2 years of service called for backup when nothing had happened, I'd have been the laughing stock of the police station, right? So I couldn't do that. So I stood there and I thought, here we go. Hey, out of the bushes came this guy.
Right.
And he stood right next. We'll call him Joe, shall we? So Joe stood right next to me, like in a gesture of solidarity. And this big group came by and they just looked me up and down and they went on their merry way. And then he didn't say a thing and he just went back into the bushes where he lived and went back to sleep. So I went off, finished that. 3 weeks later, I think it was an early December morning, I went into Birmingham and in the fountain in the centre of Birmingham, I was told that this guy, Joe, not his real name, had been found that morning floating face down in the fountain and died. So, that wasn't very nice. No. So then I thought, well, what am I going to do about it? So, and this is a big thing that I care about. I really don't like people to have loads of opinions or ideas of how to do stuff that don't then actually go and do something about it. Right? Yeah. It's great having these great ideas, but sometimes we've got to take action. In the same way, I don't like it when people say, you're an inspiration, as if that's some kind of fantastic thing to say to somebody. Well, I want to know what it is it inspired you to do. Mm-hmm. So if you see somebody who's 80, who is keeping fit, and you say you're an inspiration, is that inspiring you to go and actually do some keep fit yourself? Yeah. If it isn't, and you're just saying you're inspirational, it's empty. It doesn't mean anything. So bear in mind that I thought that's always been my thought about action and things like this. What do you think I did to help the homeless community at that stage?
I think you probably went out to meet them.
I kind of did that as part of being a police officer anyway, but yes, okay, probably.
And did you try and find out more closely what was the worst thing about being homeless? Was there something that you could actually help them with that was achievable, or something you could give to them?
Okay, you'd think I'd do something like that, wouldn't you? I didn't. I wrote a song about it. Okay, I wrote a song, and it was my version, my own version of a bit like Streets of London, I suppose, right? But how many feet were made warm because of that song? How much money did I raise to help make the lives of homeless people better? Absolutely not. Right? Yeah. So I fell into the same trap as everybody else. I know something needs doing, and I didn't do anything about it. Yeah. And then I went off to work on the police helicopter for 10 years, which was just fantastic. Absolutely brilliant job. And then I went into training. I was back in training for a bit, and then I went back to Birmingham just before the busking Bobby bit happened. And I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked the amount of homeless people that are actually living on the streets. That wasn't the case. I mean, Joe was one of about probably 5 or 6 you might have bumped into. There was now loads. And And I said, we've got to do something about this. This is ridiculous, right? So I thought, what can we do? And I fundamentally believe that if more people did little bits of stuff, the world would be a better place. Rather than trying to do the big grand gesture, what can you actually do? So Socks and Chocs, the byline was, lots of people doing a little bit is better than a few people doing a lot. Yeah. That was our sort of byline. So we thought, let's get some socks together, because I knew from my army days, if you got a fresh pair of socks on, your feet felt great and you felt alive. It was fantastic. And I thought, there's a nice present. But what about a sort of fun present as well to give people? I thought, well, how about chocolates? So we did Socks and Chocolates, and we called it Socks and Chocs, and we just used to collect them up from about October up till Christmas, and then we go out on Christmas Day and give them out at various places. And that's where it started. And it just grew from there, really. People got behind the idea of that I can do a little bit of something. So we're doing things like trying to inspire companies. Instead of buying all your co-workers a Christmas card that costs you money and ends up in the bin on the day you break up for Christmas, essentially, because as soon as you go back, you chuck it away, right? Spend that money on a pair of socks. Yeah. So we got people to pin up socks on a tree with Happy Christmas to whoever it was they'd normally send the card to. And then in January, they'd have hundreds of pairs of socks. We'd get them and we go and give them out to homeless people. So that's what happened there. Then the Busking Bobby thing happened, and that took us from 350 pairs of socks, I think it was the year before. That took us then to 17,500 pairs of socks donated. That's brilliant. Something like 600 bits of chocolate. We ended up with about 4,000 bits of chocolate. In fact, in my garage, we had a chocolate manufacturer called us up and said, would you like some chocolates? I said, oh, yes, please. Deliver them to my house. I'll go and give them out. I expected a few boxes. There was three pallets worth of chocolates. And by pallet, I mean, each pallet was a square metre chocolate. Goodness me. My garage smelt of mint chop. So we got them out to the homeless people as well. So that was all good. And then, of course, the Busking Bobby happened, and that's when I was able to talk about it on national TV, much in the same way we're doing now. And then we got approached by a bank who said, we love your ethos. We love the fact that because anybody that got involved with Socks and Chocs didn't get paid anything. So if an accountant said, I'll do your accounts for you, they'd do it for nothing, or we wouldn't use them. I got nothing at all. Nobody got anything from Socks and Chocs. So anything that came our way went where it should have done. And this bank contacted us and said, we love that ethos. And they took us on as their charity for 1 year, first of all. But actually it turned into 4 years that they did that for. Fantastic. where the staff made the raise money, and then the company matched it and gave it to us. And that allows us to do things like buy new vehicles for some of these homeless charities that are out on the streets, to giving the donations out. Yes. We paid for all of the meals for homeless people living in hotels at weekends during COVID in Birmingham. So we did some fantastic stuff that nobody knows it was us, because it was all done through other charities. We used to feed into other charities, and we don't want the accolade particularly, but that's the sort of thing that we were doing, and it was great, and I was lucky enough to get awarded the BEM off the back of that, but it wasn't just me, of course. It was my treasurer, my trustees. We were all doing lots of work for it. Everybody's doing it for nothing. And I think we inspired so many people to do their little bit that in the end, Socks and Chocs became a little bit redundant, because we'd managed to inspire so many people to do their bit that actually, once the bank decided that they didn't. I said, I think your staff need a fresh charity now to work for, because it's all based on their staff raising the money. I said, look, I think it's probably time that we severed it now. And that meant that we couldn't do all of those grand gestures that we'd been doing for the previous 4 years, because we haven't got the money coming in. So we had to go back to just collecting Socks and Chocs again. And we inspired so many people to do that we kind of came redundant. So we decided to knock it on the head. So we stopped doing that. And since then, I've gone on to volunteer for a suicide mental health text service now called Shout. So I do that as my giving back to society bit now. That's what I do.
Right. But that was a great thing to do. And I think just what was hitting me as well when you said sometimes people say, well, particularly with homeless people, oh no, that's awful. But they still walk past, don't they? And they don't necessarily do anything. And she said,
yeah, I think it can be difficult. I mean, you've got to remember, some homeless people do have mental health issues. Some homeless people do have addiction issues and things. And so you have to be a little bit careful, I think. But at the same time, is it the right thing to give them money? I personally didn't give them money because I wanted to make sure it's spent on the right things. That's why Socks and Chocs was about finding stuff we think they would benefit from. And so you do have to be a little bit careful. So people might walk past, but even as simple as if you see a homeless person somewhere, there's an app called StreetLink that you can go onto StreetLink and you can put in details of that homeless person. Just describe them. If you don't know their names, whatever, describe them, say where they were, at what time. And StreetLink will, I think it still exists, StreetLink will go out then, they'll send the local council out to try and find that person and give them some support.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
So there's things like that you can do, even if you don't want to get involved with the person or you don't want to go out on Christmas Day, giving stuff out. There's still things you can do to make sure that person might be able to get some help.
Oh, that's really, really good to know. I'm sure the listeners will really appreciate that. And sometimes, I know I hear walking past homeless people, but even just stopping and listening to them, I find when I've got my collar on, sometimes they just want to talk. They want to have a chat. And at the end, they just say, thank you. You've listened to me.
That is a really, really important point. Sometimes when you talk to homeless people, you can end up talking down at them because they're on the floor and you are stood up. And I found when I was a police officer, if I went down onto my haunches and started talking to them, it was a different thing. And I suppose in a way, you've sort of got a bit of a way in with your dog collar on.
Yeah.
Is that the correct terminology?
Yes.
But is that, you've got almost a way in, is that they will naturally think that you want to support them and help them. There's probably going to be less defensiveness maybe. There was certainly a lot of defensiveness when I was a police officer because they were frightened of the uniform. They didn't know me as a man, as a person. They knew me as a police officer. And sometimes if you only know the uniform, it can be quite frightening. And of course, they would have been used to being moved on and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So with me being interested in them, it was a bit of a shock. But in the end, they all knew who I was, and it was fine,
Absolutely. And I know also alongside your fitness, the community work and the writing work, you also teach something I hadn't heard about, influencing and motivation using the language and behaviour profile. So can you just explain a little bit how understanding what motivates people can completely change how we communicate?
Yeah, so we're all different, aren't we? We're all very, very different, and we see the world in different ways. And when I alluded earlier on to sometimes getting it wrong and thinking a client wants to hear something in one particular way, and actually I got it wrong and they need to hear it in another way, that's not the client's fault. So if you think of it, the meaning of any communication is the response that you get from that communication. So if my intention is to say, I want to support you now, but I've got to tell you something that you're not going to like, but we're going to get there, right? We're going to work together. We're going to sort you out. It's going to help you. If when I say something like that, the client gets upset and wants to punch me in the face or something, right? That wasn't what I wanted to happen. So the meaning of my communication was not received by that person, and that isn't their fault. Or there might be, you could say, well, they're oversensitive or anything like. You could say all those excuses, but the point is, my communication didn't work. So it's back down to owning that communication. So the language and behaviour profile it's a selection of about seven traits, if you like, that you can hear in the way that somebody talks, which way you need to talk to them back so that it's likely to hit the right note, if you like. So just a quick example would be somebody, have they got a toward motivation or away from motivation? So are they carrot or are they stick? Mm-hmm. All right. So, excuse me. So if somebody we're chatting away, why are you interested in fitness then? What is it you want? And they say, well, I definitely want to be playing with my grandkids and I'm going skiing when I'm 83. I definitely want to do that. I love skiing. I want to do that. What they're telling you is that they want to achieve something, right?
Yes.
If somebody said, I want to lose weight, they are telling you they want to move away from something, i.e. being heavy, right? So they want to move away. So that, now obviously people sit on the two ends of the spectrum. You know, there's the two ends of the extremes, and then people are somewhere in the middle
between,
whether they're mainly toward, mainly away from, that sort of thing. So we can either ask simple questions to get that, or people just tell you, because if you listen to people, they will tell you what their motivation direction is, for instance. So what you've got to do then is talk to them in a way that appeals to them. So and it sounds really simple, but if I'd gotten away from motivation about losing away from motivation in my head, and a client wants to look after my grandkids, go skiing, and I say, hey, listen, ski potential person at 83, that's going to be great. You want to, but I tell you what, my fitness is really going to help you lose weight. It's just going to go over their head. They're not. Yes. They're going, well, I'm not interested. What do you mean, right? I'm not interested. Likewise, if somebody wants to move away from being too heavy or whatever it is, right, or move away from sickness or whatever, whatever it is, and then you say, hey, listen, fitness with me. We'll be going skiing. We'll be playing with the grandkids. We're 83. They're going to go, hang on. I just want to get well. I just want to, not be as heavy, whatever. And it doesn't resonate with them in quite the right way. So you try to find some way to talk to them in the way that they need to perceive the world. The funny thing about it is that if you got somebody with an away from motivation, at some point, you've got to try to help them get into a toward motivation. Because we've all heard of millionaires that they become a millionaire and then they lose all their money, and they become a millionaire and they lose all their money and they become a millionaire because they're moving away from moving away from poverty is their driver, is their motivation direction. When they have no longer got poverty to move away from, they lose their motivation.
Right.
And it can be like that with fitness as well. So somebody, I'd like to lose half a stone. They do all the really good stuff. They get to having lost half a stone. That motivation goes, and then they start slipping back into that.
Yeah.
So you have to try to move them towards where they want to go, and that takes a little bit of skill, I would suggest. Yeah. And again, don't always get it right.
Yeah, very important. Understanding people's underlying motivations, as you say.
Yeah.
So you've done loads and loads of stuff. So what is next for you, Ian?
Well, I'm really enjoying what I do for a living. I wish I could appeal to more people, because exercise is the longevity pill. If people could take a pill that does what exercise does for you, you'd be popping those pills left, right, and centre.
Yeah.
Those pills don't exist, so you've got to do the work. It doesn't have to be always really, really hard work. You don't have to be feeling like you're going to be sick in a bucket and things like that. That's not what it's about, okay? It's about finding something that works for you and that helps you get your goals. And my job is just to marry those two things together. So I'd like to be able to influence more people to get involved with fitness and actually getting the benefits of exercise. That's what I'd like to do. Professional training wise, as I've already told you, that I'm doing my cardiac rehab instructor and my lower back pain instructor as well. And I'm just going through a process at the moment where I'm trying to get a fellowship chartered status with CIMSA, which is the Chartered Institute for the Management of Sport and Physical Activity, which is the fitness industry's sort of overseer, if you like. And I'm trying to get charter status for that. And that means I put all my evidence together for them to see what I do and how I conduct myself to get that charter status. So I'd like to get that, because I think that puts me as high with as much accolade as I can possibly have within the fitness industry. I can't get any higher than that. And I think that will give my clients the confidence that I know what I'm doing. I think they think that anyway, but I think having a body looking at it and looking at your evidence, looking at what you do, will help perhaps new people to trust me and come along and give something a go.
That's fantastic. And as you said earlier, you need to follow up on inspiration. So I don't want the listeners to, at this point now, feel, oh, I'm really inspired, and then not do anything. So where would be the best place to find out more information about you, Ian?
Okay, so if they go to www.mercianpersonaltraining.co.uk, then they could find all about the sort of programs, the books they've written, things like that might help them. But what I can do, I can offer 10 listeners the chance to do something called a Simio, which is a lifestyle screen. It asks them about 10 questions, something like that, and asks them to go through certain movement patterns. And it will tell them whether they are high risk of getting injured in their life, their normal life, not their fitness life, just their normal life, whether they are moderate risk for injury, whether they're slight risk or low risk. Okay. And if I can only afford 10 because I pay licenses for it, so I can't afford to do any more. But if 10 people wanted to do that, they just need to contact me through the website and say that I'm interested in doing the Simio lifestyle screen. I'll send them the link and they can do that. It's at their own risk, because obviously I'm not involved in that. It's their own risk. And it will give them a report about where their fitness and health is, where their lifestyle is, where their musculoskeletal health is. So if people find that useful, that might be somewhere they can go. But above all, what I would say is go and do some fitness, go and do some exercise. Try and make sure it's got some cardiovascular in it. Walking's fine. It's also got some strength training in it, because as we get older, we lose our muscles. They've got sarcopenia. They start to go away. And then that leaves us more chance of falling over and things like that. Okay. And it needs to have some mobility in it as well. So you're keeping everything, ranges of motion, moving. So try to find some way of doing that. Obviously, I can help a little bit, but there's other trainers all over, perhaps where you live, where your listeners live, that they can approach if necessary. It doesn't have to be personal training all the time. It could be a fitness thing that you like. Just make sure they're adequately qualified, just in case you've got some kind of long-term condition, and just do something, but do it well. Don't do an exercise badly. Do it well, because that'll stop you taking compensations and building in any problems in the future.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I hope we get 10 people making, good use of this nice offer. So thank you very much, Ian. Wish you all the very best for the future.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.